Hello everyone, I am Harshita and today's topic is expense report templates in expenses. Expense templates contain defined expense type that are available to the user for expense entry on expense reports. One can define expense report template for types of expense report uses in the company. Basically, it depends upon the company expense report. You can create expense report template on the basis of that. And expense report template enables company to control the expense type visible to each business unit. Now, here are some terms which one should be aware of is expense type. A potential expense that you can incur that was defined by the administrator during setup is known as expense type. Then expense report template, a grouping of related expense type that are defined for a specific business unit. So what expense report template do? It group the related expense type into one and template is created. Like you can create one template for travel, one for education, other for reallocation, etc. Then the next term is expense item, the actual expense that was incurred and is always associated with a expense type during expense entry on an expense report. So when you will create expense report, you can see all this. While creating expense report templates also, you can see all these terms there like expense type, expense item. Fine. So the next thing is here. To ensure you are selecting the correct expense report template, there are following questions which you should consider. Like, what kind of expense report template is required? Do you need multiple expense report template? Do you use multiple language within a business unit? What are your expense category requirements? What expense types are required within those categories? What is requirement? What type of itemization is required? So these are the questions which one should consider during selecting a expense report template. Now what we will do is we will go to the instance and we will create an expense report template there. So moving to the instance now. Now after logging to the instance, go to settings and action, setup and maintenance. Give setup as financials. Functional area, select expenses. You can see manage expense report template task. Go there. Now already created templates can be seen here. To create new, just click on this add icon. Give name to your expense report template, like I'm giving expense US 1 template. Now add your business unit and give effective start date. After that, you can see there are various steps under expense report template like expense type, card expense type mapping, receipt requirement, expense fields. So one by one, we are going to see all the fields, all the tabs here. First, expense type. So for creating a new expense type, click on this add icon. Here, give expense type, name to your expense type, like I'm giving accommodation. Select category, accommodation. Give effective start date here, and you need to give account. Now here are two checkbox. First saying this expense type used in itemization only, and second allow prepaid expense item. If you want this to, you can enable this. If you don't want, disable this. Right now I'm not enabling it. Now what is itemization? Itemization is it breaks down charges granularly so you can apply them to specific account. Like say for an example, in hotel there are other things also like room, newspaper, etc., which needs to be taken into other accounts. So we can use itemization here. So under accommodation or hotel, there can be rooms, newspaper, and other items. So it breaks down the hotel into various granular accounts, different accounts. So this is itemization. So this tab is for that only, itemization tab. Right now I'm not using it. If you want, you can use it. Then project expenditure type mapping. This tab is used for project based expenditure type mapping. If you want, you can enable this project, give default project expenditure type here, and give your project expenditure type and unit here. Fine. Then receipt requirement is the another tab. In this, there are two types of receipt requirement, for cash expense lines and other is for corporate card expense line. So there are options available here like for cash expenses line, whether you require receipt. No, if you don't want, just say not required here. If you want to use the same setup as given in template level, then you can select this option as use setup from expense template. And if you want to define an expense type, a particular amount above which receipt will be required, you can select this option and give the your desired amount. Fine. So right now I'm using setup from expense template only. Same for the card expense line. There are three options available. Not required, you can select not required. If you want to use same setup as template, you can use that. And if you want to give any specific amount above which you require receipt, you can give that also. So this is receipt requirement. Then the next step is policies. Here the policies created by you can be attached. Just you need to go to expense policy, click on the add icon and give your policy here. Like there is one policy accommodation based on location and seasonal rate. So depending upon the category, as I've selected accommodation, you can give the expense policy here. If you want, you can add it. Fine. Now the next field is expense field. The setup which we will give here, according to that only fields will get visible in our expense report. So there are fields like description, expense location, number of days, merchant name. So you can give any of the option here like you set up from template, hidden, optional or required. Depending upon the configuration which you give here, this fields will get visible and displayed accordingly. So right now for all I have set to use the setup from the expense template only. Fine. So this is all about the creating expense type. After doing all this setup, just save. Now, whatever the type which we have created of accommodation is visible here under expense type. Now the next field is expense card expense type mapping. So under card expense type mapping, if you're using corporate card for expense and got a file from corporate card issuer, and that file is going to contain card expense type, then what you need to do is enable a corporate card mapping, give a default expense type, and we can map card expense type here with our expense type. So this is about card expense type mapping. If you want, you can do this as per your requirement. You can configure it. Now the next two tab is receipt requirement and expense field configuration at the template level. So if you will go to receipt requirement, type of receipt required is original. If you, as per your requirement, you can select the checkbox you want, like require receipt for cash expense type above specified amount. So if you want to give any specified amount, you can just enable this option and add your specified amount here. The next is required is for corporate card line above specified. So this is for corporate card expense line. If you want, you can add specified amount here, after which receipt requirement will be mandatory. Then apply receipt requirement rule to negative expense line. If you want, you can do that also. Then allow user to indicate that receipts are missing. If you want, you can allow this and display missing receipt warning to user. If you want any warning to user for receipt missing, you can enable this option. So this is receipt requirement configuration at the level of template. Then the next is expense fields. For expense field, you can configure the same, like you want description, expense location, number of days, merchant name. These fields uh, in your expense report you can configure from here, and if you don't want, you can give a configuration as hidden. The other two options are optional or required. So depending upon the configuration which you are giving here, expense report will display or not display this field as per that only. So after giving all the things, just you, if you want to use this template, you need to first set this template as a default and save and close. And your template will get ready for its use. You can see that. Fine. So this is how you can create your expense template. So this is all for today. Thank you.